Every day, religious Jews pray for the coming of the Messiah.
Traditional Jews believe that in every generation there's a potential Messiah, and that if the generation is worthy, then that messianic figure will be revealed. He's going to be a son of David, and yet, according to the prophecies, greater than David.
The Old Testament says the Messiah would be a son of David, born in Bethlehem, called out of Egypt, and raised in Nazareth. He would be a teacher and a healer. He would calm the seas and cleanse the temple. He would be welcomed as a king, and yet killed as a criminal. Then 3 days after his death, he would rise from the dead. These are just a few of the prophecies written about the Messiah. Only one man in history fulfilled them all.
If we rightly understand the Hebrew Bible, either Jesus is our Messiah or there can never be a Messiah. There's no question that in the mind of God, he was going to send a Redeemer. His intent for Israel was to be a priestly nation through whom the whole world could be blessed. And it took 2,000 years from Abraham to the coming of the Messiah to prepare a people that could welcome the Messiah.
Jesus was born into a world of political upheaval. The Jews had returned from exile to a nation they no longer ruled.
During these centuries, the Jewish people began to hear the promises of a son of David and realize it's someone greater. It's not just a regular king. The regular kings have fallen short. They were speaking of this anointed one that would be known as the Messiah. Every prophecy that was spoken about someone from the line of David that was not fulfilled in their lifetime became a potential messianic prophecy.
The line of David was no longer in power. Herod the Great was on the throne, and for the first time in history, the Jews had a Gentile king.
He had been a convert from the Idumean people to Judaism, and his parentage had no Jewish blood in it at all.
Because of his own lowly birth, Herod was threatened by the descendants of David, so he raided the public archives and burned the genealogies of the Jews. Many of David's descendants fled Jerusalem and settled in the village behind me, a place that later became known as the town of the branch, referring to the branch of David. Today, we know it better by its Hebrew name, Nazareth. The boyhood home of Jesus, and according to Matthew's Gospel, the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy of Isaiah. But the town of Nazareth didn't even exist until about 600 years after Isaiah's time. And at first glance, you won't find the word Nazarene anywhere in Isaiah, unless you read it in Hebrew.
Matthew brilliantly puts together the voice of several prophets that he'll be the branch, literally the netzer, hence coming from this place Netzaret, Nazareth. It's a perfect fit, but it's one of these little jewels that Matthew puts there that you have to dig to discover and understand. In point of fact, Messiah was netzer, the branch, the shoot that came up out of the root of David.
In Jesus' day, only about 150 people lived in Nazareth. Once a family of kings, they now worked as farmers and shepherds. They recorded their genealogies and kept them hidden. By protecting their family history, they were also tracing the bloodline of the Messiah.
Genealogies are important through the whole Bible. It was really important that it was established that the Messiah was from the line of David.
The Gospels of Matthew and Luke record the bloodlines of Jesus' parents, Joseph and Mary. Both were descendants of David, Joseph through King Solomon, and Mary through David's other son, Nathan.
Matthew wants to show the royal descent. He is a direct descendant of King David through his earthly father, his foster father, Joseph. But through his mother, Miriam, better known to Christians as Mary, through his mother, Miriam, he is a blood descendant of David.
It was here in Nazareth that the angel Gabriel visited Mary. He told her she would give birth to the Son of God. It was the fulfillment of a birth announcement recorded 700 years earlier in the book of Isaiah.
Isaiah 7 speaks of the birth of one that's named Emmanuel. Then in the 9th chapter of Isaiah, it speaks of a son of David who's going to be born that's actually called Mighty God. And then Isaiah the 11th chapter speaks of this netzer, this branch, this shoot from the root of David. This is the same child, Isaiah 7, Isaiah 9, Isaiah 11. This is the same child who's been born supernaturally. It's quite striking. You have to dig to find it, but when you dig, it's one of those hidden treasures.
A royal family in hiding, a virgin with child, and a nation waiting for a redeemer. The stage was set for the most significant birth in the history of the world, Jesus, the Messiah of Israel.